What's up everybody, welcome back to Togi Lab. We just finished our manual swap for the S14 and here you can see we use a aftermarket transmission brace as well as the Nismo transmission mount. We installed a new neutral and reverse switch as the one that came with the transmission was broken. There's also a new slave cylinder for the clutch, and the bolts for the bell housing on the automatic transmission does not fit the manual transmission, so we also had to buy new bolts for the bell housing. It came as a complete kit, so we replaced all the bolts with zinc coated ones. We also installed some GK Tech shifter springs. This cleaned up a lot of the slop in the shifter. There are 3 springs you can choose from. We also upgraded it to a one-piece aluminum drive shaft, as well as replaced all the seals on the transmission to prevent any leaking, as well as the rear main seal for the engine. We also replaced the steering rack bushings, as well as installed new Nismo engine mount. While we were there, we noticed that the oil pan was leaking, so we resealed the oil pan as well. Another really nice upgrade is to replace the sub harness for the transmission with a new wiring specialist harness. It comes with all the connections that you will need to do the manual swap, so you don't have to make your own wiring. Here you can see the stock automatic transmission wiring, or at least what's left of it. Wiring the new harness is pretty straightforward. You have one sensor back here, one that goes over the transmission over to the O2 sensor here, one to the neutral safety switch, one to the reverse as you can see here, and one to the crank sensor up top, and all of this will go to the front of the engine bay, all the way up there. There's also a few connections here that go to the starter, as well as a connection on the frame over here. As you can see, it's a little orange spot right there. Once you pull the harness forward, there are a couple of connections that go to the alternator. If you look at the other side of the alternator, there are a couple connections here. Once you make those 2 connections, you can pull the rest of the wiring harness up on top of the engine bay. Those are the old connectors, and we're going to replace it with the ones that look exactly the same on the new harness. Here's another view of those 2 connectors that we removed from the old harness. Up there is where the connectors are. As you can see, the orange part, and there's like a slightly different color one up there. Once we have everything pulled up on top of the engine harness, that is the old connector. You will remove these 2 coming from the fuse box, and there is another connector back there. Here you can see where that connector was and that jump harness. You're going to remove all these connectors as well as the jump harness, as you don't need these anymore with the new wiring specialties harness. Now that all the connectors are disconnected from the old harness, you can go ahead and pull out the old one, as we won't be needing this anymore, and then we can go ahead and replace and connect the new wiring specialties harness. Note that to remove the old harness, there is a power wire that's inside the fuse box, as well as a ground wire on the frame that you need to remove in order to remove the old harness. Now this car is a 96, so it may differ a little bit for your vehicle, as there may be additional connectors here. I did end up with 2 connectors that were not used in this swap. Now for the clutch master, we drilled 2 holes, top and bottom, as well as 1 larger hole in the middle in order to install the clutch master cylinder. As you can see here, it should fit through that hole. There is the clutch pedal here. There are the 2 holes there that will go through the firewall. I also had to remove and shift this off to the side as this box was in the way of the clutch pedal. You can see here, that's where the 2 holes are and where the clutch pedal would go. And on the left hand side, you can see this connector is disconnected as I had to tuck that off to the side. This is that cover for the clutch pedal. All I used was a Christmas tree bit to open it up. Here is the clutch master installed, and the line will go across here and down into the slave cylinder. After you bolt the clutch pedal through the firewall, there's also 1 bolt that goes straight up that holds it to the rest of the car. So make sure you bolt that in, as it is very important to do so, otherwise the clutch pedal will be a little bit wobbly. Here you can see the clutch line routed up and over the transmission and then pass over here back to the clutch master. The ECU is located behind this black panel on the passenger side. This is an optional step to swap the auto ECU to a manual. This prevents any rough idling or any codes. I thought this was pretty important to be able to pass smog with this swap. And that concludes our summary for the swap. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.